Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of February 10th, 2014. Welcome to the site to you new members and welcome back to the old members. The Ask Videomail is your chance. Yes, your chance to get your question in character animation or performance answered in a video just like this one, but I need your question if I'm going to answer it. So please send your questions to webmaster@KennyRoy.com. I go through all the questions and I answer the ones that I think will help the most people. There is no such thing as a stupid question at all, and it is the best way to get the most out of the site. I am so absolutely freaking stoked about how things are going. Listen, there's ups and downs in life, right? On the one hand, I have to tear down pretty much the entire interior of my garage because my neighbor called to see and complained about the renovations that I didn't even do. But I'm stuck with it, so I have to do that. But then on the other hand, I have this amazing website and all of you people who are so supportive and do such amazing work and inspires me and it keeps me going. And so everything is yin and yang, you know? You got to take the bad with the good. But I'm just so stoked about things that are going on and how it looks like I'm going to be able to do a whole lot more education starting this year, and more on that later. But I just want to take every chance I get to thank you guys for being a part of the site and for watching these things. Even if you're a free trial member and you're just stopping by for 30 days, I'm glad you're here. I really am. Steal everything. Just watch as many videos as you can, soak up everything, do an anim gym, get a free critique, do it all, okay? I really want you to get a lot out of it, and because I'm here to do it, all right? I live for this stuff. So, but there are a lot of things that are on burners right now, and exciting things coming. I keep on saying all these exciting things that are coming, they take so long. But good things are worth waiting for, right? Worth waiting for. Okay, I won't do too many more announcements. I think that's all that I want to do. Don't forget, though, I mean, listen, the Anim Gym is a really, really, really cool resource. I've partnered with Justin.tv. It's a free streaming website to do the streams for the Anim Gym. They just have a really good platform for me to do the free recordings or to do a recording of the free stream. So check out Justin.tv /Kenny Roy. And that's where all of the replays for the Anim Gym are going to be posted from now on. And basically, yeah, I'm just really stoked to be working with them, and they're stoked to have more and more creative content makers on their site. So it looks like it's going to be a win-win. But there's more stuff like that in the works, and kind of more synergies and bringing more content to you guys. So I'm just excited about everything that's happening, and please stay tuned. But jump into the Anim Gym. That's what I wanted to say. The Anim Gym, I mean, I'm giving the same kind of level of critique that I give on the job. So it's really as if you're working like on a production shot, and that's a huge advantage. I think you can give yourself if you're still trying to learn animation, or if you even want to polish up on your skills. Just take on this little exercise, 48 to 72 frames. You're animating alongside everybody in the forums. They're all doing the same shot. So yeah, I think it's really fantastic, and it's a resource that you should take advantage of, especially if you're a member of KennyRoy.com. You get the free critique. I'm speaking so fast, my tongue's getting tired. Okay, let's get to the question. It's a goodie. Fantastic question. I've said this before, that we kind of get a little bit caught up with the method of moving controllers telling us how to animate. But let me first back up. I've never heard of a client that wants you to have really detailed poses. I've never heard that. Okay? Like if the fingers aren't moving yet on animation, and like you've left it out so far, just like the finger movement, but it's super impactful. It's highly dynamic. It tells a story. It's funny. The staging is interesting, and the timing is just right on. They don't care. I've only ever heard of like directors in dailies looking at animation, commenting specifically on pose or the detail in the pose. I've never heard of a client doing that. Now, maybe the director is showing the client stuff, and when you turn in your work for review, they are kind of being a little bit more of a stickler on what they're showing than what the client would actually notice or point out. That might be the case. If that's the case, then that's a little bit tougher to work with. But the point I'm trying to make is that you want all of those other things, and you want a workflow that gets you all of those other things way before like detailed poses or like, all of the controllers have been touched in some way. Someone made a joke about touching all the controllers. I can't remember really like the punchline, but it was when we were working on Kong, and he had like 200 controls just in his face, and there was like another 200 on his body. And someone was talking about like the time it would take to just set like one keyframe on all these controls is like longer than we had on the film, and that's kind of that is kind of true. I mean, we build a whole bunch of articulation into these rigs that's never used either. I remember, or in fact, on a lot of our projects here at Arconics, the rigs are far more dynamic than the character ever needs to be. Like, there's a full squash and stretch rig inside Bigfoot, the one that we use for our Bigfoot show, but he's never ever going to squash nor stretch. You know what I mean? So you don't want a workflow. It would be really, really bad to kind of like focus on workflow and say to yourself, like, well, I want to become the fastest animator I can be so that I can get to really detailed poses. And that's kind of my highest priority. You'd much, much rather be the kind of animator that can have, like I said, hugely dynamic, okay, tells a story. Very, very, very interesting, intriguing, unique timing choices. Okay, expertly staged, funny, all these things. Okay, long before you like would want to be the person like that's animating on the team that can touch all 200 controls in the time it takes somebody else to get all those other things. Okay, so the fact that your question asks about like workflow and that you normally like to move the big controllers around, like the IK hands and the root and the feet and whatever, and you feel like you're missing something and the client is not maybe signing off on your stuff, or it's just not getting enough kind of attention maybe, well, I have the answer for you, and I think it's animating with tempo. I think it's animating with those timing decisions up front, because I believe now that humans respond way more to the timing of animation than they do to the poses, because unless it's superposed to pose, unless like the character literally hits a pose, then we go into and out of the poses, and we go into and out of them in a way that is dreamed up by our minds. Think about it this way. The poses are not dreamed up by us. Yes, we decide what poses to put them into, but for the most part, and this is even true in 2D animation to a large degree, but especially in 3D animation, we have a rig. So a pose that we want to put him into, say like a strongman pose, right? This was all kind of decided for us what strong is. And you can argue that like, okay, let's get away from cliche. Let's do something just a little bit more, a little cooler. And let's make sure that, it's not all lost in foreshortening, like this, or lost in silhouette like this, right? So we can get like a kind of like a cooler pose, a cooler strong pose, whatever it is. But what we culturally accept as like a strong pose or like a muscle flexing pose and all that stuff, combined with the limitations and the model of the rig, like how the lines are going to flow through this, like that is kind of all generated for us. We decide on it, but it's generated for us. Whereas timing is 100% from your mind. Okay? There's no, like when you're talking about like a frame difference here or there, there's no realistic way that computer can't tell you, Maya can't tell you, okay, how a frog character should jump up into the air and take off his cape and throw it and then explode into confetti or whatever, right? It's that part of the timing is completely fabricated. It's ours. So when we're doing animation, making those timing choices, changing your workflow into one that makes the timing choices the hero and gives you the most amount of time in your workflow to adjust those timing choices and to experiment with and really find and like kind of wiggle into like the perfect timing choice. That's the best workflow. So I really think that animating with tempo is going to help you a huge amount with your posing problems. Why? Once you have those timing choices, it just becomes a matter of kind of slotting in these pose choices that you have. I think that you're not having enough time to put detail into your poses because you're doing posing and timing at the same time. Animating with tempo pushes the posing out of the way, gives you timing that is awesome, and then there's no fighting that happens between posing and timing when it becomes time to get those poses into those frames that you've already chosen. All right, you have a lot more time to do that, to get to that stage. And I think you'll find that if you animate with tempo, when it's time to put this strong pose in, because you've made that timing choice so early on, and you're happy with it, you'll be like, okay, I'm just filling in. It's like painting by numbers. And you'll find, I think, I used to just like kind of get it like loose like this and whatever, and I would do like the finger, like the master finger curl, which on all rigs looks a little bit weird, right? Now I'm going to really actually, build this really awesome looking kind of offset cupped hand strained strength pose in my fist, and I've got time to do it because I wasn't faffing around in the beginning with all of these controls, just trying to get a character from T pose into the right pose over here and then over here and then over here, and then having to worry about timing again, all this stuff. Okay, so I really think animating with tempo is the answer for you here. Okay, check out that lecture if you haven't seen it already. I believe you have. I think you've been a member for a long time. And then the other thing that I've pointed out before is that we kind of get a little bit tricked into what a pose really is by the method that we have to use to make a pose. And what I mean by that is you get a character, they're in T pose, their arms are out, you have a controller on the wrist, right? It's IK, it moves their arm around, right? You've got a controller on the cog or the root that moves, the body or like the torso around, right? And then you've got IK feet controls. We kind of, because we have to move those 5 controllers all the time to just begin posing, it tricks us into feeling like poses are built from a relationship between like the root, like the waist. I apologize, someone's vacuuming the hallway. It might get a little loud in here. So a relationship between like the root, the waist, and like the wrists and ankles. It's easy to feel like that's how, like, I mean, if someone says like, pose like, kind of like from the bottom up or from like, like the root outwards, then we kind of are going against that, aren't we, when we're building our poses. So my point here is this, is that instead of getting your character like in T pose and moving them into poses, and then having to kind of like work the timing and add breakdowns and kind of like fight that battle that way. If you animate with tempo, you can take your thumbnails or your reference video or stills or photos or whatever you're using, and you can say, okay, this is my dream pose. Okay, this is my absolute dream pose, and then just like almost like take it as a frame and slot it into that timing choice that you've made already. And if you do that, it will feel a lot less like you have a puppet that has 5 strings that you kind of have to like, move into, the right position, and then finally, get everything looking right. You have like a template that you're filling, which is a lot easier. For me, it has proven to be a lot easier to do. Okay, I've seen some people, some animation now coming out of people that have switched over to animating with tempo, and it's been radical. It's been hugely impressive on the way to do it. And what's interesting is on my short film right now, I have the amazing Dana Bodway Masson working on it, and she took a shot on, and the first thing she sent me, like after a couple hours, was just this bouncing ball. And I saw it immediately. Oh my God. And it was gorgeous. I'm like, that's it. I see the whole thing. And what was a bouncing ball? But it was the timing choice that she used. It was so snappy and so expressive that the posing was done. Even if she didn't have the thumbnails done yet, the posing was done, like looking at that timing. Okay. So try it out. If you've tried it out already, try it out again. Try it with a shot. Here's something that maybe I should have mentioned in the lecture itself. Try it on a shot that's a lot more open and sort of adaptable than the stuff you're normally working on. Like I wouldn't try animating with tempo first on like a dialogue shot that you've been struggling with for months. I wouldn't do that. I would do it on probably a pantomime shot and something that is a little bit more physical or has like a really interesting choice or like an open-ended question to it. And for that reason, you'll be able to kind of experiment with less boundaries, with less limitations on you, and just your imagination running wild. Okay, but certainly not like a dialogue shot that's like really subtle and small and slow. That I don't think is a good thing to do. But anyway, if you haven't checked out the Animating with Tempo lecture, it's in the archive right now. So go check that out. It's in the lecture archive, which I think is just over there on the menu. That's a fantastic question. I'm not surprised that you're struggling. It is. I mean, our rigs are getting way more complex, kind of like every year. And the amount of like control that people are demanding from rigs is getting higher and higher and higher. I remember when I first started that there was just IK had just kind of started coming into sort of like fashion. People started knowing what it was, and this is like around like 97, 98. It was starting. People like understood what it was at least. But yeah, I mean, nowadays you need like 500 controls like on the character at least, and that can be daunting. So just kind of like cheat, kind of like skip that whole step, and I think you'll have a lot more fun. And that's what it's about. It's about having fun, guys. If you are struggling and you're not having any fun, you're doing something wrong. My answer to that has always been to focus on workflow instead. And you'll find like, hey, this is at least I'm making progress, and I'm not taking, I'm not really like losing losing like the magic of what I'm working on because of frustration from not getting anywhere. If you work on workflow, you'll always make improvement. That's the kind of the thing about workflow. I love it. Please send me more questions just like that one. It was great. The address is webmaster@kennyroy.com. Don't forget, you get 2 free days. This guy sent me 3 questions, so I put 6 days on his account. Just boom, just like that. All right, so earn your free time sending your questions. It's a great method to solidify your workflow, is to ask questions about it, because you have to pare it down. This was a lot of fun. Thanks again to all of you. Good luck with your animation, and as always, rock on.